Wargaming posts a lot of teaser videos. I would say one every couple months now, and these teaser trailers are great because they let us know what tanks are being introduced into the game. And specifically, their tank we're going to be talking about in today's video is the Object 268 version 4, we can see right in the background of this picture. Now this picture here is going to be the main loading screen for Blitz in the next update. Whenever you load into the game and it says synchronizing data, connecting the store, all that good stuff, this is what the main loading screen is going to showcase, meaning pretty easily that we can confirm our suspicions that the Object 268 version 4 will be released next update some Friday after. Now, a lot of times when we know this information, we just kind of wait for the tanks to be released as YouTubers, and then we'll make a video talking about its statistics, how it performs from our playing and all that. But I want to do a new series on my channel, which is called Before It's Released. This series is going to break into tanks that we know are going to be released within the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to talk about them statistically, their armor profile, and everything you're going to need to know. That way, when it does come out, you'll already know a little bit about the tank if you're fighting it on the battlefield, or you possibly wanted to try and get your hands on it. Now, when it comes to tier 10s, I think every single one that's been introduced into the game has been sold in crates, and even if it wasn't sold in crates, it would probably be sold at a minimum of $100. So, you would have to be willing to spend a lot of money to get your hands on the Object 268 version 4. But with that aside, let's break into the statistics, see what is good and what is bad. Now, the thing about the 268 version 4 I want to point out right now is this is a heavy tank. Yes, I know. It is technically designated as a tank destroyer, but this vehicle is not supposed to be played like a tank destroyer. And that's why when the DPM and the penetration values are going to be shown in a moment, it doesn't have really good tank destroyer pen. It's more comparable to a heavy. So when we talk about this tank statistics, think of it as a heavy tank, but as well kind of a tank destroyer. It's not meant to sit at the back of the map. One other thing before we break into the statistics of this tank is that I am running it fully kitted out on equipment and provision. So we're running improved fuel, condensed milk, and as well extra combat rations. And then when it comes to equipment, we got calibrated on, we got enhanced gun laying drive, vertical stabilizers, improved modules, improved assembly, improved optics, and finally engine accelerator. Obviously, you don't want to run camouflage net on a tank that's meant to frontline. So let's get into its statistics now. It has 1,961 hit points. It's not a Jagdpanzer E100 at 2,120, but this is still plenty to deal with enemy opponents, especially when we take a look at the armor in a bit, and you'll notice you cannot penetrate it with standard ammo, meaning you actually have to load gold to penetrate the front of this tank, so those hit points are going to go a lot further than you really think. View range is pretty solid. It's 277 meters. Why is it so good for the tank destroyer as well? As I said before, it's a frontline tank, so it's not like you're in the back actually not spotting for yourself. If you're using this vehicle in the front line, you are definitely going to have to spot some opponents that might try and flank you or get into positions that you normally would not have seen. We have 2,722 damage per minute. Worst in class for a tank destroyer, but very solid for a frontline heavy. Especially if you're running gun rammer, you're going to be sitting upwards of 2,900 damage per minute. Why would I suggest not to run gun rammer? Well, if you'll notice, the standard pen is quite poor. It's 278 millimeters. It's good for a heavy, but very poor for a tank destroyer. Even the premium pen is only 363. In fact, vehicles like the IS-4 and other tier 10 heavies like the E5 Planvang are sitting at 374 millimeters of pen. So the penetration is not amazing on this vehicle, and I would highly suggest that you use calibrated to make sure that your 600 damage heat shells do end up penetrating enemy opponents, and your 690 damage AP shells also manage to penetrate. Every time you load gold, you're losing 90 damage a shot. That is a huge chunk. You're dropping 400 damage per minute. I would highly suggest that you do not try to load gold as much as you can. When it comes to HE as well, I would be iffy on it. It's 800 average damage. It's 110 more than your base damage. It's not a great jump. It's just kind of like how the 60 TP only goes from 600 average damage to 680. Why would I be cautious about this? Well, if you're shooting at a Grill 15 or a Waffenträger Panzer IV, a 4005, all these tanks that can run Spalliner, if you're not sure that they are running Spall and it's a 50-50, I wouldn't go for the HE pen because you're actually going to lose more damage than you would have just firing AP. And you also have the possibility of not penetrating it. Now, obviously, if you have the side of a Leopard 1 or something that's very easy to penetrate, yeah, then go for it. But I would highly suggest that you're very wary when using these HE shells because it's not a huge increase over your standard damage per shot. When we take a look at the aiming time, oh, it's not great. It's 2.04 seconds, which is around, if you actually equate it to blitz values, around a 5-second aiming time. Oh yeah, that's not great. Dispersion, 0.407. What is the 183's dispersion? Oh yeah, 0.408. This is 0.01 better than the 183 on dispersion, making this one of the least accurate vehicles in tier 10. Even though your on movement dispersion is decent, it doesn't matter. Your dispersion is so downright terrible that you're going to miss a lot of shells. Now, thankfully, this is a frontline tank, so at least you will be able to hit some of your shells in the front line, but I can say from experience driving a 60 TP that, oh boy, is this tank terrible. Like, the 60 TP is already bad on its accuracy. Imagine a 60 TP, but without a turret. Ooh, yeah, you're gonna have to really be careful when using this tank that your shells do connect, because you have a very long reload, 15 seconds before you get another shell. 5 degrees of gun depression, not great, but as long as you use your armor correctly, it should be fine. You just gotta make sure where you position the tank definitely suits its playstyle. 32 degrees of traverse speed, not bad, but that's for the gun. Its actual traverse speed is sitting at 32 degrees, actually almost the same, not bad as well. It's not fast, you know, it's pretty similar to what I would say like an IS-7's traverse, but this is a very heavy vehicle. You have to realize it weighs in at 75 tons. So when you're using it, my suggestion would be, instead of trying to out-traverse your opponent, unless it's a heavy that's getting around you, is if there's a medium tank, or let's say like a T100 LT getting to your side, use your reverse speed. This tank goes 20 in reverse, making it the fastest reversing tank destroyer in tier 10. If you can use that great reverse speed and get into a wall and then scrape the person off, you will be in much better shape than trying to out-traverse the person flanking you. That's one thing just to keep in mind. Its top speed is 38 kilometers per hour, and with a power-to-weight ratio of 12.68, oh, yeah, it's really not going to be accelerating up to its top speed anytime soon. It doesn't carry super speed boost, but it does carry reactive armor. Would I suggest to run it? No. Its sides are incredibly weak, the rear is pretty weak as well, and yeah, I feel like a lot of the shells that are going to penetrate you are going to penetrate anyway, so don't bother using reactive armor, just run adrenaline and 2 repair kits. This is a tank destroyer, it's got very large tracks, which will probably get tracked out in the open a lot, so I wouldn't suggest to sacrifice one of your repair kits or your DPM just because you want to take a little bit less damage. You only have 1900 hit points to remember in the first place. One thing that you might not have known is how bad the concealment is. It is 6.5%. That is atrocious. If we take a look at an E100's concealment, while still, I scrolled down too much, it's 7.1. Now, while moving the E100's camo is a little bit worse, but yeah, it's got better camouflage while sitting still than a 268 version 4 and E100. So that just gives you an idea of how bad the camouflage is and how bad Wargaming really wants you to sit in the front line with this tank destroyer. So now that we've broken into the statistics of this tank, what can we talk about? Well, to me it seems like this is really a frontline vehicle. It has terrible dispersion, terrible camouflage, but really good view range. So you want to be in that front line using that view range. You've also got great reverse speed, so if you put yourself in a situation you need to get out of, you can very easily do that. So it's great on that aspect. It's got a decent top speed that'll at least get you into the battlefield quick enough, and yeah, it's got a huge alpha, so if you do manage to penetrate a shell, even a heat shell on an enemy opponent, you're still dealing 600 damage per shot, which is great. So this is definitely going to be your frontline tank destroyer. But let's take a look at the overall armor profile to see really what this tank has going for it. So this is the tank. It looks pretty cool. I really like the design of the 268 version 4. If we take a look at the underbelly, you can't really notice, but all the sides are angled. So you can see at a penetration angle like this, you can't really penetrate the tank. It's 390 millimeters thick. Even the track wheel's 290. So this is a very, very beefy vehicle. We're going to take a look at the vehicle though with penetration values on. So this is a 60 TP aiming at the Object 268 version 4. Now there's one thing you may notice right away, and that is the engine deck. Just like an Object 263, if you have the opportunity to shoot at the engine deck of this vehicle, I would highly suggest to do it because you will overmatch it. However, there's a bit of a problem with that. The 263 is quite low down. This is the angle that a 60 TP sees when it face hugs a 268 version 4. Yeah, it's a penetrable shot, but it's a very hard shot to hit. So yeah, I wouldn't suggest to do that, especially if you're anything anything lower down like a medium, you're not going to be able to shoot the engine deck of that vehicle. The 60 TP is quite a tall tank, as you can see, so yeah, just keep that in mind. The engine deck is weak, but for most vehicles, you're going to be seeing it like this, so you won't actually be able to shoot that engine deck. Now, even with calibrated shells on, this is what the lower plate of the 268 version 4 looks like. It's 300 millimeters effective, and for me, I'm actually going to be running enhanced armor on this vehicle, so let's just see how well that upper plate works. Now, if you're using this vehicle correctly, you can angle it like this as well. Let's say you're hiding that weak spot on the side, so we pull up the calculator, you put it around a corner like this. This is the ideal position you want to use the tank. There's no weak spot. Your lower plate's 316 millimeters thick. Your upper parts are 325. Even if you're loading heat shells, I mean, look at the tank. It is 333 on that lower plate. That's insane. And by the way, if you hide that lower plate and you just use the vehicle frontally with 5 degrees of gun depression, it's impenetrable. It's 367, 467. Even the hatch is impenetrable on the upper part because it's not actually armor. So the only part you can pen is this lower little bit here. Yeah, the 268 version 4's armor is a little bit busted in my opinion. The lower plate, you actually can't pen. Let's say you pull out a Leopard 1, like any medium. Let's just do the Leopard, for example, because that has 330 heat pen. You can't pen the front. The only spot you can pen is that. If you are in any medium tank, do not try to penetrate the front of a 268 version 4, because you won't. Now, if you're not running enhanced armor, you can. But if you are like me, then you're not going to be able to cut through this tank at all frontally. So you want to get to the side. The sides are very weak. You can see 208, and once you get to the sides, oh yeah, only 92 millimeters thick. The rear of the vehicle only at 80. That means if we were to pull out a vehicle, let's say like the Object 268, and you shoot an HE shell at the rear, yes, you can penetrate it for 960 average damage. So this vehicle has weaknesses, but frontally, it is an incredibly strong vehicle that even AP shells with calibrated at 268 can't pen. You have to load premium, and even then, the only weak shots you can hit are still very, very small. This tank in a frontline position will be very scary, and I can't wait to see how it releases into the game. What I would say is I think the lower plate should be a bit weaker, not 330 thick, maybe 320, and that's with enhanced armor. That way, vehicles like Leopard 1s and other mediums can penetrate the front, but that's just my personal opinion. Let me know what you guys think about this vehicle in the comments down below. I also feel like the damage per minute should stay the same, but the alpha should get nerfed. I don't know why this vehicle gets 690 alpha. I think it should be 560 like a Hori, and then it should have the same 2900 DPM, so it's just a faster reload, but it's got less alpha. That way, it's not as intimidating of a vehicle. Either way, hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and if you'd like to see more like this in the future and you like this series idea before it's released, let me know. But other than that, I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.